One of the most common things that we see, and we tell our clients all the time, is you need to have your deposit ready. Your deposit is usually going to be 5% of the purchase price. Another thing that we see is people have unreal expectations because you're searching online and you see a home that's listed for 700,000, but really they want 1 million for it.
Yeah.
And now you fall in love with that $700,000 house, and you're like, this is the house that I can buy for 700,000. I saw another one at 750. I saw another one at 800,000, but really they're selling for 1 million, and you might not see that they're selling for 1 million.
We are in a down market now, especially the last little while. So, when you read the news, when you read articles, anything you hear about real estate is negative. Everything's selling for low, for cheap. There are a lot of hot pocket areas where things are selling in 7 days. Multiple offers still today.
Another issue or mistake that we see is not having the closing costs ready.
Yep.
So again, most people think, okay, what do I need to buy a home? 5%. I'm putting my deposit, 5%. It's done. I own the house. But it's not actually, it doesn't work like that. So you're hearing what's going on in the market. You know it's becoming a much better time to buy a house. You start looking at places. You're wondering what you can afford. What we're going to be talking about today is all the common mistakes that buyers make when it comes time to buying a house so that you don't have to run into them. I'm Bwanka with the Compass team.
And it's Safras with the Compass team.
And today we're going to be diving deep into all the different things that happen when it comes to buying a home and just different mistakes that first-time home buyers make so that you don't have to make any of these mistakes. Safras, what would you say is the not most common, but probably the biggest mistake that you see people make when it comes to buying a home?
I think the number one thing that we see most of our first-time buyers and buyers in general do is start actively searching for homes without getting an actual pre-approval from a bank or a mortgage broker. That's definitely top one for us.
And what's the problem with that?
The problem with that is, sometimes you run numbers and you're like, hey, I love this X amount. So $1 million house. It's fantastic. And then you start looking, everybody looks online. I always say, like, by the time people actively start going out, they've seen maybe thousands of properties online, realtor.ca websites, whatnot. You get this idea like, hey, I like this $1 million home. So you say your expectations at that price point, and that gets you a certain amount of things, right? But when you really get to the pre-approval, and if that number that is lower, let's say now it's 700 or even 800 or even close to maybe 859, I know it's only 150K, but that's a big difference in what you're able to get on the market compared to $1 million.
Yeah.
Right? So now you might be looking, maybe it's a 3-4 bedroom detached home, let's say, at around close to $1 million, but now at 850 you might be in a semi-detached. Sometimes it's a big mental barrier of a downgrade. So now you're like, oh, now I'm only going to get this, and then they get demotivated a little bit.
Yeah, so the biggest thing is like trying to skip that demotivation.
Exactly.
And instead of looking at something that's way above your budget, you find out what the actual budget is. So we've actually done a video, and it's a buyer video. We go through all of the steps that you should take. We would definitely say that you should go and check that out. But the first one is going to be talk to somebody on our team. If you're ever interested to speak to us, click the link below, set up a time to talk, discovery call, something like that. It's easy, it's quick, and we go over kind of a lot of the things we're even going to be talking about today. And then the second step after that is going to be starting to search for homes.
Exactly.
But one of the things that we always see when people are out and we're out searching for homes is we end up finding a home and then say, okay, you know what? We love this home. We want this home. Let's put an offer on this home. We put the offer in, and then it becomes time. Okay, we have an accepted offer. Okay, well, right now you need to have a deposit ready.
Absolutely.
So one of the most common things that we see, and we tell our clients all the time, is you need to have your deposit ready. Your deposit is usually going to be 5% of the purchase price, and it needs to be ready within 24 hours of an accepted offer. So what we've seen, and even people know this and they understand it, is you have the money, but it's just tied up in TFSAs, in the stock market, in whatever it is. It takes more than 24 hours. It takes more than one business day. And sometimes we can find workarounds for it. But to put yourself in the best position when you know, hey, I'm going to be starting to look to buy a home, you need to make sure you have the 5% of the purchase price ready in the account, liquid, ready to go.
Yeah, especially in the past, we've seen sometimes with, people like, oh, I have a Tangerine bank account. It might take a business day or two to get a check. Some people have an RRSP, and they're like, oh, it's RSP. They said I can withdraw it. You can withdraw it, absolutely. But sometimes it might take 2 to 3 days. So we need to be prepared for that, especially if we're going to have an accepted offer.
Yeah, I like what you said about Tangerine, because a lot of people
Yep.
have a lot of these banks that have no fees, but they also have no location. So you can't go in because you're gonna need a certified check, and then you can't go and get a certified check from any of these. So you have to figure out how you're gonna transfer
Yeah.
funds to another bank. And again, it becomes a big thing. So this is one of the biggest mistakes that first time home buyers make, for sure.
Yeah. When I bought my home recently, I was right away, I was like, okay, I need to get this deposit ready. And sometimes if you have, let's say, you're buying $1 million home, and sometimes we can work around like you don't have the 50K, but you need to have a good chunk of that 50K. If you're like, I have a 5,000, it's really hard to make that work. We can make stuff happen, but it needs to be really close to that 5% amount.
Yeah. No, yeah, we've definitely done it in the past. And sometimes you put down half, and then it's like,
Exactly, yeah.
okay, we just gotta wait for this, and then we're by the end of the week we're gonna have the other half. We are able to sometimes do things like that, but this whole goal of this video is to help you not have to go through these mistakes and that
Yeah.
headache and that stress of dealing with something like that.
Exactly, because sometimes you work 9 to 6. Maybe the bank is closed by the time you're done work. So now again, that's why have it liquid in your debit account, ready to go, if we're actively looking.
Yeah. Okay, now Safras, you talked about having unreal expectations because you just didn't know how much you could afford.
Yeah.
Another thing that we see is people have unreal expectations because you're searching online and you see a home that's listed for 700,000, but really they want 1 million for it.
Yeah.
And now you fall in love with that $700,000 house, and you're like, this is the house that I can buy for 700,000. I saw another one at 750. I saw another one at 800,000, but really they're selling for 1 million, and you might not see that they're selling for 1 million, but that's what is actually happening. So a lot of times that's one of the things that we see is people have unreal expectations due to seeing property that just was not listed at the actual price that it's going to sell for.
Exactly. So the unreal expectation is, there's something called, we have a list price, what we list the home for, but the most important thing is the sold price of all the homes that we're comparing to, right? Like I'll give you a real example. I was looking at just window shopping, just looking online, and I saw this really nice house. Like I'm talking double car garage, over 3,500 square feet. And even me, like I'm a realtor, and I saw the price and it said 1.1, and I'm like, 1.1? Like what's going on? But obviously I knew right away in my head they want more. So I just opened it up and looked at it, and they're expecting like 1.6, even in today's low market. But again, if I didn't have access to this information, I'm like, hey, you know what? If I can afford 1.1, I can get this kind of home. But realistically, they don't sell for even close to 1.1, right? So
Yeah. And the other thing as well with these houses, these are like the most beautiful house. You see the house are like so beautiful, like perfectly staged, renovated, like great layout, everything. You're like, this I would buy at this price. I will buy this house right now.
Yeah.
But it's not just you that's saying that. There's many people who are saying the exact same thing. Those are ones you go to the open house. There's 100 people there in one day. But again, that's not the realistic price, and it's just very important to know that because we don't want it to set you up for something bad in the future.
Yeah.
And even with this, when we talk about these prices, we have another video. If you scroll through and look at our buyers playlist, you'll be able to find a video that we have talked about this already.
Yep.
And what offer dates is really like.
Yeah, and we are in a down market now, especially the last little while. So, when you read the news, when you read articles, anything you hear about real estate is negative. Everything's selling for low, for cheap, everything's selling under asking. And, I was looking at a lot of properties for a couple of clients this week, And you know what? There are a lot of hot pocket areas where things are selling in 7 days. Multiple offers still today. Like they'll list a home, like a semi-detached in Leslieville, let's say, is $999. They're selling for 1.3 in 7 days, right? But if I just looked at it, $999 is my expectation. That's why it's really important to have the pre-approval and then setting realistic expectations of sold prices. List prices, we always say, doesn't really matter as much.
Yeah, yeah. So then another issue or mistake that we see is not having the closing costs ready.
Yep.
So again, most people think, okay, what do I need to buy a home? 5%. I'm putting my deposit, 5%. It's done. I own the house. But it's not actually, it doesn't work like that. There's always gonna be closing costs on top of that. So go over kind of what the closing costs are.
So closing costs, typically you have, for sure, land transfer tax, right? You have lawyer fees, you have title insurance. There's a few fees involved there. And sometimes, let me give you another example. Sometimes people don't expect this is, let's say you're buying a home September 1st, right? It's closing on September 1st. But the person who owned the home, they paid the taxes for the rest of the year, right? Because your property taxes would have been due by then. So they already paid for September, October, November, December. You have to pay them back. So on closing day, yeah, you have all these costs like land transfer tax, which could be a big sum, even if you're a first time home buyer, lawyer fees, plus other, maintenance fees. Some people pay it 2-3 months in advance. Some people pay the property tax 3 months in advance. So all of these costs have to be paid back to the appropriate parties or the government for the land transfer tax. And again, you need this money cash. So if you have your 5-10% down, you still have closing costs in anticipation for that. But again, that's why we always say when you meet with us and when we get to the offer stage, we understand a little bit more about your finances. And we could say, hey, for $1 million, these are your estimated closing costs. Just budget for maybe 1,000 or 2,000 more. So there's no surprises on closing day or a week before closing. You're like, hey, I need to come up with an extra 15K for all these other fees.
Yeah, yeah. No, for sure. And even for this as well, we've also done a video very in depth on this. So if you want to understand closing costs in depth, we have a video on that as well. One thing that I see, I'm sure you see it as well often, is people wanting to see too many properties.
Yep.
So a lot of times you see a property, and we usually, what we do when we first meet with you is we find out every single thing that you need and that you want in the property. With that list, it becomes very easy to track down and find the exact property
Yep.
or properties that are going to be best for you. So normally within the first 2 to 7 properties that you see, you're going to find the home that's right for you. But some people say, I cannot find the home that's perfect for me on the third place that I saw. I have to see 10 other places. So then you go and you see 10 other places, and by the time you see the 10th one and you realize, oh, you know what, that one was the best one, it's already sold.
Yep.
So this is definitely going to be one of the mistakes that buyers make. A lot of times when you have a good real estate agent and we understand everything that you're looking for, you're going to be able to get to the perfect house for you pretty fast.
Yeah, it's a lot quicker to get it, to see the perfect property. And we always talk about it. It's maybe the first showing or the second showing. Typically, we're able to find the perfect property for a lot of our clients. But the biggest thing at that time, we always tell them in advance, it's, you're probably like, hey, there's so many more homes out there, condos, homes. I need to see a few more before I can narrow it down. And we've seen it where we're like, okay, we'll go out for another set of showings next weekend. Perfect. On Wednesday, this person gets an offer and they're sold because, like you said before, the perfect, beautiful homes are still selling pretty quickly. So that's why it's, if you see it, you love it. Yes, we can definitely see a few more, maybe quickly that same day or the next day or sooner than later. But typically we find, within like seeing the first 7 homes, the right one, just because, we sit down, we talk about, you're like, I have a car. Great. Now we need a parking spot, right?
Mhm.
Like we narrow it down as much as we can so that it takes the confusion out of the process.
Yeah. Been a real estate agent for quite some time. In everything that you've seen and with all your experience, what would you say is kind of your best tip or your piece of advice to someone who's newer and starting to looking to get into the market so they're not making any mistakes?
Talked about it, so it's like start looking online a bit. You could start looking online. Like let's say, like me, like a personal example. I'm like, okay, I kind of know what I want as a house, so I'll just do a little search on, let's say, Realtor.ca. Obviously, we have our own software, but I'll go on Realtor.ca, just see what things are listed for. That's it. It's like you're going on like Facebook Marketplace. You're like, hey, I want to buy whatever. I want to buy this coffee maker. Let me go check the average price of the coffee maker. Cool, you kind of get an understanding. Okay, maybe it's there, but I'm not like, all right, now that's the coffee maker I'm gonna get for $500, right? It's not the home I'm gonna get for $1 million. It's okay. This is what's available in this area. Like, it's like someone, let's say they come from out of town, Montreal or something. They're going to Toronto. They want to live downtown Toronto, but they want a house. It doesn't really exist. You need to know what you're getting into, right? If you're like, okay, Safras, I want to live in the West End. Cool. What do you want in the West End, right? Is it a condo? Is it a townhouse? If you're going to Vaughan, you're like, do you want a condo or are you looking for a house? There's so many factors. It's start looking online. It's like I love looking at real estate, so maybe this is a little biased information, but even me, I still even on my phone every day, I'm just looking for fun. But go out, just have a little brief look, and sometimes I say even go to the open house, right? Go to the open house. Sometimes you can have a look, see this is what's going on right now.
Yeah, so getting a better understanding.
Yep.
One more bonus one that we have is going to be timing the market. Now, a lot of times people want to time the market and nobody can time the market. I mean, if everybody timed the bottom, there would be no bottom. Basically, it's impossible to time it. I mean, you can look at where the market is and say, is this a good time to buy? Is this a good time to sell? Yes, but don't try to be perfect with it. Don't try to find the exact time or oh it's gonna go a little bit lower. If you see what you want and it's at the price that is good for you, definitely move on it. Don't wait until it's too late because it does happen and I've seen lots of people wait until it's too late.
Yeah, like Bwanka said, like run your numbers. If you can afford it comfortably, real estate. In Toronto, it's like even it's looked as an investment, but for many people, it's just your home, right? Look at it. Sometimes you have to look at it. All right, hold it. Am I gonna live here for 5 to 10 years? Can I see myself doing that? Great, fantastic. The market will go up, the market will go down. That's what the market does for whatever the product is, right? It's a stock, it's an item, doesn't matter. But if you're going to live there or you're going to rent it out, whatever, just have a good game plan 5, 7, maybe even 10 years. So you don't have to worry about, oh, it went up 5% this year. Oh, it went up 7%. Oh, it went down 10. Like all of it doesn't matter because you're not selling. So why does it matter as much?
Yeah. Okay, so most common mistakes that new buyers make are going to be searching for homes
Yep.
before getting pre-approved, not having the deposit ready, having unreal expectations, not including the closing costs, wanting to see like so many extra properties, and then the bonus of timing the market. If there's any that you think that we missed or that you want us to talk about, leave a comment below. If you got value from it, give us a thumbs up. And again, send it to somebody that you know is looking to buy right now or thinking you don't want them to make any mistakes. And I'm Bwanka with the Compass team,
And it's Safras with the Compass team.
and we'll see you guys on the next one.